What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to Star Wars Journeyer. This is Story Devlog number 7. It's February 1st, and things are progressing along. In the last video, we went over character arc for our main character, our main player. I discussed a little bit of backstory that I've been working on. And so for this video, I want to begin working on outlining the plot. So what that's going to look like is setting up from start to finish the different events that happen to our character and to the story, as well as describing what's going on. We can assign different storylines. So while you may have something that's pretty important to the main storyline, you can have an additional thought that is played out. So we can kind of treat these storylines as quests. And can I edit these names? Or can I just create a new one and call it whatever I want? Okay, cool. So I can actually type in there and it'll adjust it. Cool. So this is what I want to do today. I don't want to make too long of a video, but what I would like to do is at least plot out how our character begins the story, how our character gets to Tython, and eventually how our character meets up with Tython Shan, because I think that's really where our character begins to realize, hey, I can potentially become a Jedi. Which is the whole point of a Star Wars game, right? Or at least of this one anyway. You know, this isn't Star Wars Bounty Hunter. That was a fun game. Anyway, so let's go ahead and get started. The first storyline is the event card of number 1. The story begins. The user needs to select their character. So we can call this we'll call this card just character selection. And so we will remove, can I remove, oh, okay. So you can open this up and select which one it is. Character selection, what do we want to call these? So we're going to have, we're going to have for sure one storyline that is called The Will of the Force. We're going to have one storyline that is the storyline track. So the Will of the Force is going to be understanding why the user is being drawn by the Force to go to Tython, because the dream is actually going to be an invitation by the Force. You know, we talked about in the last video that our user is going to use some sort of force power to escape the thugs that jumped him on the outside of the cantina, and that is going to trigger our story. So after that happens, our character ends up going back to their residence, ends up falling asleep, and the Force gives them a dream. During that time, Mitra Surik, you know, we spoke about in the last video, is coming to you in the dream. It recognizes that you're having a Force dream and begins speaking to you. So that quest line is going to be called The Will of the Force, and it's going to be exploring the different aspects of the Force. It's going to be exploring why the Thoyor pilgrims were called by the Thoyor to go into it and go to Tython. It's going to be exploring why Tython Shan received a vision of a hyperlane revealed in the Force to go to Tython. So there's going to be a lot of different aspects. It'll be really interesting. It could even still touch on why Kreia hated the Will of the Force so much. I mentioned that in the last video. So I think that'll be a really interesting storyline. yeah, that should be pretty cool. Now for um, the other storyline of, let's see, we're gonna have a storyline for Journeyer. I'm trying to clarify what I want to say. So there's a storyline of becoming a Journeyer, or actually becoming a Ranger. So Journeyer is the status of someone going from Jedi Temple to to all of the other temples, learning and training at each individual one, learning its secrets, and then once they complete their entire journey, usually it would take up somewhere around 2 years, but the journeyer would complete it and go back to Padawan Kesh, and that's when they would become a Jedi Ranger, or a Jedi Ranger per se. So that would be the title, and then obviously there's different ranks. There's Temple Masters and all that stuff. Um, but as far as the storyline of traveling from one temple to the other, I think we can just call that the journeyer, right? Maybe journeyer. Actually, what we'll do is we'll call this becoming a journeyer. So this will be the storyline that leads up to um, recognizing that you're a Force user, and so that is from character selection all the way to your first encounter at Padawan Kesh and learning that you're a Force user. Maybe one of Satil Shan's party, recommends that you become a Jedi, or at least start training in the ways of the Force. And so we can call that becoming a journeyer. So that would be one storyline, and or we can call this the way of the journeyer. Oh, come on. So one thing this platform does not like is allowing me to click and drag. The way of the journeyer. We can call it the will of the Force, the way of the journeyer, and maybe the life of a ranger. The life of the ranger. That way they kind of have like a ring to it. So like these are the three basic storylines. So the will of the Force, understanding why you're being drawn, the way of the journeyer, everything leading up to actually becoming a ranger, and then once you're done traveling from each Jedi temple, you become a ranger, and then you start your Life of the Ranger quest, which is probably what's going to take place after. I think that should be the part where you finally realize what's going on with the Sith apprentice, and maybe during the way of the journey, you are understanding or beginning to pick up on like, hey, something is wrong. There's like this dark presence, I can feel it or whatever, and so maybe the will of the Force and the way of the journey are kind of two parts leading up into the life of the Ranger. So, I mean, that could work, right? Okay, yeah, so main character selection, and that begins, that actually doesn't begin yet. So, we'll add another storyline. So, Will of the Force, we'll do that after your character wakes up from midstream. We'll call that the Will of the Force. But on this one, we'll call this story intro. And so we'll do that. Take that off. So character selection. Do I have to like open up this before I can edit in here? Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I thought it would like make you have to write stuff out over here. Is this working? Okay, there we go. Finally. Okay, so event card 1 is character selection, main character, story intro for the storyline. The player decides their, I cannot type, their characters, let's just say attributes, skills, race, etc. Alright, so next card. Going from character selection, and after that you're going to relive your arena battles. So that's when a cantina patron comes up to you, sits at your booth, starts talking to you about the battles that you talking about the duels that you did earlier in the arena, and that's when you're transported back into those events. So like your first duel, you're going to be learning how to maneuver with, if you're on a computer, it would be AWSD to move back and forth. And then, if it's Xbox or PlayStation, it would be adjusting your camera with your joysticks, and simple attack moves. So hitting X is gonna, bring a a sword. You have let's say for example you have a vibra sword, and you learn how to attack with the vibra sword by using X, or maybe there are different kinds of attacks. So like X is a quick attack, and Y is a slow attack, but it's stronger, and that's that. And then you go to your next fight, and that's where you learn how to maybe switch weapons. If you want to use a blaster, you can maybe hit B to change to a pistol, or a blaster, or a rifle, or something. And you can learn how to do maybe special abilities with each weapon. And then your final fight is applying it all together and defeating the, let's say, 3 thugs in the third battle. So that gives you a learning experience on how to do the basics of the game. Fighting with swords, fighting with blasters, knowing your buttons, etc. So we'll call this what do we want to call this? Learning the controls. So this is main character. Oh wait, just do that. Close that. Story intro. So I have to actually click over here. I keep wanting to click over here. Close that. And description. Okay. The player is approached by a cantina patron and is questioned about about the 3 fights the player was in before character selection. The patron inquires into to in order, each fight teaches the player how to maneuver and use the controls. By the third fight, the player should know how to utilize the controls and defeat the, let's say, 3 thugs. To become, let's say, the day's champion. So maybe we can create a little storyline around becoming the day's champion, to where, you know, it's this event that the arena has every single day. People battle each other. Maybe it's a tournament, actually. And maybe you're placed into a 8-man bracket or a 8-team bracket. And so, like, your first fight's quarterfinals, second fight semifinals, and your third fight is the finals. And so you face off against the 3 thugs in the finals. All right, next card. The third fight. We'll do characters, main character, storyline, story intro. Close that. And this one is the Three Thugs Enter Cantina. And so this event is actually going to be where you begin learning about player choice. This introduces that you have different dialogue options. And so in this scenario, like we spoke about in devlog 6, when these three thugs enter the cantina, you could be allowed to maybe ignore them. Maybe a light side option would be to say, "Hey guys, I'm not looking for any more trouble. Let's keep it in the arena and be friends out here," or whatever. And then maybe your dark side option is to say, "Oh yeah, I'll kick your butts again right outside. Let's go." So this is where you introduce what we're going to call it, just introduce dialogue options. And we're down here in the description, we're actually telling you about what's character. I'm gonna label these a little bit more. So what just happened? Character selection, the cantina, the arena, the cantina fight. So basically what happens in this event is no matter what happens, you eventually get into a fight with the 3 thugs. Now if you choose to be more light side, you can maybe delay the fight. You can say, "Hey guys, let's not do this." Well, you know, maybe if you choose that option, they end up just walking out and they wait for you to eventually come outside. And then if you choose the dark side option, it would immediately go to the fight. So the player Actually, let's the 3 thugs enter the cantina and spot the player across the room. The thugs walk over and begin, let's just say they begin bullying, for lack of a better phrase, bullying the player about the fight, saying maybe you cheated. And maybe what would happen during the middle of the fight, you have some sort of inkling of, like, you accidentally use the force in a very small way. So that way they suggest like you cheated. You know, let's go round 2 right now. So maybe that's an instigation for another fight. And then let's see, the player is given the option come on. The player is given the option to, let's see, choose their dialogue, and I'll just say that is given the option to choose their dialogue with both, or with light side, light, we'll just call it light, dark, and neutral. Dark and neutral. Goodness, I cannot spell. Neutral. Oh my gosh, neutral. I'm having the most difficult time. What is this? Natural. Oh, maybe I need more coffee. And neutral. It's given, the player is given the option to choose their dialogue with light, dark, and neutral options. Okay, and then we'll go to the next card. So depending on what you do, the next part could be delayed if you went with a light side option. You could go neutral and just ignore them altogether, but I think eventually they would. I don't know what's going on with my video here. My video is very elongated. Try to fix this. I don't know what's going on. Sorry. I think that phone call messed up my camera. Anyway. So let's see here. So the next one is the actual, or let's call this one, because this isn't really the Cantina fight. This is, we'll just call this the Cantina Thugs, because this is where they first interact with you outside of the arena. And we'll call this one the Street Fight. So you've learned your character selection, you've learned the arena, and you've learned about dialogue options. So this is where you actually get to your first fight outside of a controlled space. So this is for the main character. This is the story intro. And for the description. The player gets into a fight with the 3 thugs. Toward the end of the fight, the player draws power from the force. The thugs run away in fear. And maybe because this is going to be a game about choice, maybe you get the option to either let them go or kill them. I think that would be more realistic. I forgot I can't click and drag. That sucks. The player is given the option to let the thugs go or kill them. I think you can also, we need to introduce persuade dialogue, but I mean that can come later, I guess. It doesn't have to be now. But we can make persuasion a part of the dialogue. So based on how well your character or how high your persuade skill is within the game would give you, let's say you have a persuade skill of 12. In order to persuade this character, you need to have a persuade skill higher than 10 or something like that. And you can have those different settings within the game. So, if you've spent a lot of time putting skills into your persuasion, you could better influence people. The player is given the option to let the thugs go or kill them. And so, give an option to persuade. Persuade. Oh, P. Goodness, my spelling is so off today. I swear I can spell better than this. Won't let me just do that. I don't know why it's not letting me adjust where my mouse is. Okay, so there's a street fight. The next card is going to be going home to your residence. Going home. We'll just call it a so we can say I think at this point is where we introduce more of the HUD interface. So like you'll have like your navigation bar up at the top of your screen that shows your maybe important location that you need to track. It's like a compass essentially. So you have under controls introduce dialogue options. We can say exploring the map or yeah, exploring the map. So this is where we introduce a nonlinear. You can take whichever direction you want. Maybe this is the first time a player is given the ability to walk around the map freely on Rhol Yan. I think for the purposes of the intro, we'll limit the user to stay inside of Rhol Yan. We'll create a map for Rhol Yan. It's just a city of islands. So, the user could go across bridges, or maybe there's some points of interest that maybe there's a temple you could go to. You could maybe go into one of the spires. But this is exploring the map. Make your way home. So eventually you get out of the street fight, but the whole goal, the whole quest at this point is to go home. Maybe I think what also needs to happen. Can I drag that down? No, this interface does not like me to click and drag. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's fine. Characters. Main character. Close. We're going to close these. Maybe it'll help out with... Gosh, I keep wanting to click over there. Alright. So now... This is where the player is taught how to move around the map and introduces the HUD, or maybe compass HUD, and larger map in the main menu. Come on, goodness. Okay, so let's say the player's, yeah, that's fine. The player is taught how to move around the map and introduces a compass HUD and larger map in the menu. Okay. The player has a... this can also show... Okay, so your first quest is make your way home. So it'll teach you how to utilize the compass, heads-up display, and the larger map in the main menu, and will introduce the quest system and display current quest. So this will be done in two parts. Introduce the quest system and display current quest. Where is my... The player can now make their way to Sorry, someone keeps blowing my phone up and they won't stop. The player can now make their way to their residence. Through the map. Alright, so that's that card. Let's see, I think for this video what we'll do is just get to the point of making our way off Tython, then we'll call this video. We'll try to keep this video shorter. Make your way home. The next one is the residence. This mechanical keyboard is so sensitive. Having a dream vision, and it could probably be a mixture of both. The player enters their residence and like it'll allow you to explore or whatever, but they'll have a quest that says in the player, goodness, I'm gonna have to backspace all this, enters their residence and has a quest to go to sleep in their bed. And they can explore the residence and all that stuff. The player is shown a dream vision by the Force, and so the instigation of the Force, I think maybe because of the backstory of our main character losing a family member to Tython, perhaps their father, the player is shown a dream or vision by the Force of their father. Mitra visits the player in the dream. I thought I turned up caps lock. And tells them to go to Tython. So there's that one. Next. So waking up, making your way to Tython. So there's that. Hey, hold on one second. So my wife was calling me, and she has just now shown up with furniture at my house. So sorry about that. So waking up, making your way to Tython. So our character wakes up. Make this wider. So this is a story intro. So now what needs to happen is your character learns how to begin discovering things for themselves. So the player wakes up and needs to find a way to Tython maybe this is where you can begin actually interacting with people on your own. The player can interact with NPCs and learn how to get to Tython. Maybe there's a smaller a spaceport in Rhol Yan that you can go to. So the player can interact with NPCs and learn how to get to Tython. Once they learn how, you can, let's see, the player can interact with NPCs and learn how to get to Tython. The player can initiate quests with NPCs and can earn credits to maybe as you interact with NPCs, we provide an NPC in the way that tells you how you can get to Tython through the spaceport, and so they tell you, okay, yeah, you have to have this much money, and we introduce the credit system. Can earn credits to pay for a ticket, I guess. Player can interact with NPCs and learn how to get to Tython. The player can initiate quests with NPCs and can earn credits to pay for a ticket. The player, let's see, the player employs a small freighter. Why can I not spell? Small freighter for passage to Tython. So on this event card, your player is going around the map of Rhol Yan doing quests for people and earning credits. So that introduces the multiple quest system. And then the final one, once you are arrival at Tython. And this is where come on. And this is probably this is where the story intro So we'll call this, we'll say this one's passage to, we'll call this one passage. Can I control all? No. Goodness. Passage to Tython. This is the event card. This is where you complete your story intro. And then the player makes their way to Tython. So there's that. And then the final card for today is Arrival at Tython. And for this storyline, it's going to be the will of the Force. The player completes the story intro and begins the will of the Force storyline. Cool. So that kind of gives us a good little map. There's going to be a lot of event cards once it's all said and done, but it should be a lot of fun. Step outline. Can we do this now? Okay, nice. So text. What happens if we do detail? Oh, okay. So this just gives you a play-by-play of what's going on without like the names. Cool. This is starting to look good. Awesome. I think that's it for now. We'll stop the video here and start plotting out our arrival to Tython. What I want to eventually get to is we got the first stages of Calamar plotted out, and then the next stage would be to do the beginning of an arrival on Masara, and plotting out how you arrive, you interact with Satil Shan, you visit your first temple, and get started with that. So, with that said, I think we'll call it right here, and we'll see you guys in the next video. You guys have a good day.